Hi guys, James at Goddard Radio Moscow Beer and Meta Reviews again for you today with another beer review. Today I'm reporting to you from Osaka in Japan. So for this review I have to give a little shout out to Michiko Ozaki, whose apartment I've been staying at, and she's letting me film all the stuff when she's away at work, which is pretty cool of her. So a big thank you to Michiko for that. But over the next few videos I'm going to be doing beers from New South Wales in Australia, and I want to dedicate this mini-series to one of my subscribers, John Shepherd, who actually took me around in Sydney, showed me some of the cool beer bars, and actually let me do a tasting with him and try some of his really kind of unusual beers. So this little series of New South Wales beers is dedicated to John, and I want to thank him for all that he did in Sydney. So a big thank you to John. So anyway, for the first in this series of New South Wales beers that I'm going to be doing, we're going to go to a very new brewery. And this one is from a company called Ekim Brewing Company, and they actually do like their Viking themes with this one, and it's quite funny that the reason I chose this one first was because in Japan on my first supermarket trip here I had two little Japanese girls run up, grab my legs and scream "Thor, Thor, Thor," and so the parents had to pull them off, and I'm on Japanese Facebook somewhere going like this with two Japanese parents, and they probably think they met Chris Hemsworth, so I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I thought it was quite funny, and this made that beer quite appropriate for my first review from the New South Wales series. So as is usual then, we'll get on to the review now. I'll take you through a very short history of the brewery, very new brewery, so it is very short. The brewery website's in the video description below, as is the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do from these guys in the future, and if you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. So anyway, as I mentioned to you, this is a very small craft brewery based in the city of Sydney, and it was founded by Michael Jorgensen, and he chose the name Ekim and also the Viking theme as a result of his Danish heritage, which you might have guessed from the name Jorgensen. So, all the beers they produce are unpasteurised and unfiltered, and they contain only water, malt, hops, yeast, and what they say is a rebellion against mass-produced beers, and they're all brewed in very small batches, and they say that their beers are supposed to be enjoyed with a touch of the famous Viking hedonistic indulgence that they were very well known for. Obviously, when you read about the Nordic mythology, you hear about these huge, great feasts in Asgard and things like that, which is really pretty cool. So, to list the other beers that you can get from these guys, you get the Vinlander American Porter. Vinlander, of course, if some of you might know, America was actually discovered by a Nordic guy and was called Vinland at the time, but Christopher Columbus steals the credit for that one, so hence Vinlander American Porter. Quite a cool name, I have to compliment them on that. You have the After Battle Pale Ale, Summer Tequila Spiked Pale Ale, Hell Black IPA, Viking IPA, and then this guy, the Berserker, which I forgot to mention, is an amber ale, and it comes in at 7.2%. So let me just bring up the camera and I'll let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one. I wasn't able to find the kind of breakdown of the hops and malts and things that go into this, but it's quite nicely done. I do like the sort of Viking theme they've got on there. You can see the hop flowers, the hop flowers being beheaded by the Viking, which of course was a great pastime of theirs. It is just a plain bottle cap on this one. It says on the side, Berserkers were Germanic warriors who fought with an uncontrollable trance-like ferocity. Our amber IPA is inspired by this passion, but with the additional reassurance of it never inspiring drinkers to partake in a bloodthirsty rampage. Well, hardly ever. The beer presents a ballsy bitter, which is perfectly balanced by a malt backbone with late in the boil / dry hop additions, bringing in rich caramel, burnt sugar sweetness, and elevating citrus and tropical fruit notes. Just another wee note on Berserker, actually. If I was reading this when I was researching the stuff for this beer, the word Berserker, it refers to the fact that these guys, Berserker, I forget how they break up the word, I think it's bear, which is bear in the Old Norse language, and then Zerker, which means like a coat. So the Berserkers used to wear this coat made of bear fur, and that's why they were called the Berserkers. And as I say, they fought with that kind of trance-like fury when they went into battle, so they were quite vicious and quite well known. So that's where you get the word Berserker from. But anyway, enough of me blabbing away about this. Let's get on to the tasting of this beer. As you'll know if you've watched my channel before, I actually really enjoy amber ales. And so I'm really interested to try this one for you. So this is the Berserker Amber Ale from the, it's Amber IPA, sorry, rather than Amber Ale. Berserker IPA from Ekim Brewing Company, based in Sydney in New South Wales. So as you can see, nice little bit of smoke on the opening. We'll just get this guy out and into the glass. You can smell quite a bit of the fruitiness on this guy just as you're opening it up here. My glass, of course, is just a little bit too big. This is the only glass I've been able to take with me, Got this guy in Taiwan when I was travelling about. I'm on my way back home now. But as you can see, it's poured really nicely. You can see there's a lot of carbonation come out of this one. Just checking you can see this on the camera, which is quite cool. You can see there's a finger of a frothy white head there. You can really smell the malt off this one actually. Very, very caramel, and that's without even paying too much attention to it. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see that it's not really transparent at all. Now, even if I hold it up to the light, it's actually a kind of mahogany, sort of chestnut, rosewoody colour actually, as you can see. I'm quite surprised at that. Usually an amber ale is a good bit brighter than that, but the colour doesn't really matter as long as the taste is really there. There's a good bit of carbonation sticking to the side of the glass, some nice big bubbles and a lot of nice little bubbles kind of going up towards the bottom of the head there, so it looks really nice, and that head is just going down a little bit. So if you smell the aroma on this one, there's a lot of nice fruit in there. Yeah, a lot of nice fruits coming out in this one. You're getting a lot of nice kind of burnt caramel flavour in this one underneath. You're picking up that, if you kind of go around like this, just swirl it around, you'll pick up a nice kind of big caramel note underneath. But it's really a citrusy orange fruit that's coming out on this one. And I think there's a big bit of passion fruit in there as well. You can always tell the passion fruit is really quite different from the grapefruit. It doesn't have it's hard to describe, but it doesn't have as quite a, it's almost a little bit more apricot-y, if that makes sense. It's always hard just to identify the individual fruits. But I'm pretty sure I can really pick up the passion fruit. There might just be a little bit of grapefruit in there. But this is all the different kind of acids and things you have in the different hops. But it's a nice aroma. This is quite a complex one, so if you do taste this beer yourself, just take a bit of time and just go around with the aroma of this. It's always interesting to compare aroma to flavour. But yeah, it's got a big caramel toffee nose on it, some nice kind of piney, it's got a sort of resiny, spicy hop underneath as well that you can pick up in the fruity notes. But there's a floral and kind of aromatic-y grassiness in there. My guess is that this is a big kind of hopped beer, this one, before I've even tasted it, but there is a nice, probably nice caramel roasted undertone in this one. So without further ado, let's give it a taste. So this is the Berserker from the Ekim Brewing Company. And that is a really interesting beer, I have to say. Really nice and juicy and really nice. It's just a really nice blend of flavours actually. It's got a kind of, on first impression, it has a perfect balance between malt and hop. An amber ale is something that you would always expect to be a little bit more malty, and it does have that. So you've got a nice sweet kind of caramel and toffee malt in there, and it's a little bit toasted, and that just kind of goes right into the middle of the tongue. I think there's a little bit of cereal in there as well, a sort of cereal or earthy character into it. So that's a characteristic you expect more of a kind of English amber ale, if that makes sense, rather than an American one. So, but this, at the same time, this beer does have a nice kind of fruity element to it as well. So maybe these guys are trying to find the sort of middle ground and make it a more sort of general amber IPA, if that makes sense. Or maybe this is a kind of new sort of Australian take on it. Obviously you get Australian pale ales, but you know, you can go on about styles all day. The fact is, it's a good beer, and that's the main thing. So yeah, you've got a nice big malty taste, a nice kind of sweet caramel, toffee malt in there, maybe a little bit toasted, I would say. I think there's a little bit of cereal character in there, maybe just a little bit of cereally spice, which is the kind of, you know, the sort of cereal spice and hoppy character, the earthy hop character is something that's more to do with the English amber ales, and it has that element, but at the same time you're getting a nice kind of juicy orangey note just around the edge of the tongue. You're getting that blanket of the caramel, the roasted elements, the nice cereal malt base, and just a little bit of earthiness, I think, as well. That's kind of what goes into the middle of the tongue. But around the edges of the palate, you're getting the nice juicy oranges and a little bit of the passion fruit and grapefruit flavours in there as well. Yeah. Big and juicy around the edges. There is a little bit of kind of grassiness in there as well, comes out just around the edge of the palate, and just a little bit, maybe a little bit of that spice is more aromatic as well. But I think there's a definite earthy character and I think a little bit of kind of grainy cereal in the malt base as well, and that makes it really interesting for me, because it makes me wonder whether the style, as I say, is an English amber ale or an American amber ale, and it's really interesting in that regard. But as I said, fact remains it's a very good beer. So in terms of the tasting, as I said, you're getting a nice blanket of caramel malts, a little bit of toffee. It's kind of roasted as well, I would say, slightly toasted, and you've got some cereal, kind of grainy cereals in the middle of the tongue there as well, kind of right on the back edges, but around the edges of the palate you're getting that nice juicy character, the nice juicy fruit elements from the hops. So there's a little bit of orangey juice in there. That the citrusy element of the flavour is definitely orange. You've got the more tropical fruits as well, some passion fruit, and I think there is just a teeny little bit of grapefruit, but the passion fruit is the one that's punching its way through, and there is an element of grassy and aromatic character to the hops too, and I think there is definitely some earthy element to the hops as well, and which, as I said, makes it a very interesting taste. In terms of the mouthfeel of this guy, I would say it's mid-bodied, it's got a really nice oily feel to it, and that helps bring out the juicy elements of the beer, but at the same time it also does kind of aid in the, I find that it aids a little bit with the kind of earthy and spicy character that you get out of this beer. So the mouthfeel to me is perfect. It's got a moderate carbonation, just a few little bubbles attacking the front of the tongue, but it's quite easy drinking, and it's got a nice balance between the kind of sweet and dry aspects of the beer. It goes into being a little bit more dry on the finish, and that's the lingering characteristic. What's interesting about the mouthfeel is that usually it's a hoppy element that kind of stays there with the dryness, but with this time it's the cereal and sort of earthy character, I think, that lingers in the dryness, and you get the sweetness, the fruity sweetness in there when you're actually drinking it. So it's a really interesting, this one, and it is a little bit, it kind of plays about with your palate a bit, so it's an interesting beer to taste. But you know, you could easily session a few of these. It is a very nice beer, and most importantly, it's something a bit different. So if you want, and if you're into amber beers like me, and you want something that will kind of confuse you a little bit in a good way, then this is definitely one you want to go for. And I would happily drink a few of these in the pub. You know, very good beer. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this review. So go and check out the Ekim Brewing Company from Sydney in New South Wales in Australia. This is a really good one. So I would actually love to try some of their other beers and see what they've done with these. But this is a really good one. If you have tried this beer yourself, as always, please feel free to let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer. I'm always interested to see those. But yeah, please let me know how you've got on with the how you've done with this. And sorry, my computer just went a little bit funny there when I was trying to access it again. But yeah, please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer. Like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this series of beer reviews, and I will catch you soon with the next in my short series of New South Wales beers. Cheers!